1672, 1673, 1674, 1675, 1676, 1677, 1678, 1679, 1680, 1681, 1682, 1683, 1684, 1685, 1686, 1687, 1688, 1689, 1690, 1691, 1691, 1692, 1693, 1693, 1694, 1695, 1696, 1697, 1698, 1699, 1700, 1701, 1702, 1703, 1704, 1705, 1706, 1707, 1708, 1709, 1710, 1711, 1712, 1713, 1714, 1715, 1716, 1717, 1718, 1719. Senator Sabo.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate do approve the votes and proceedings of Thursday, 1st February 2018. I so move.
All right, thank you. Senator Adeleke.
Senator Adeleke. Mr. President, I hereby recommend.
Dear colleagues, don't support that the votes and proceedings of Thursday, the 1st day of February 2018, being approved, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Announcements. The Conference Committee on the Constitution Alteration Bills will meet today, Tuesday, 6th February 2018, time 2 p.m. Venue, Office of Deputy President of the Senate. Further announcement. The Senate Ad hoc Committee on Investigation of Allegations of Corruption against the NMP's Trading Limited is scheduled to meet as follows. Today, Tuesday, 6th February 2018, time 2 p.m. Venue, Meeting Room 107, Senate Building. Members of the committee are by this notice requested to please be at attendance. Signed, Senator Omako. Distinguished colleagues, we have staff and students of Starville School, Jahin, Abuja, and staff and students of Leeds British International School, Barimpa, who are here to observe our proceedings of the day. You are most welcome. Please settle down. Letter from Mr. President. Presidential decision to decline assent to 3 bills recently passed by the National Assembly in December 2017. Pursuant to Section 58(4) of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 as amended, I hereby convey to the Senate my decision on 25th January 2018 to decline presidential assent to 3 bills recently passed by the National Assembly, namely A. Police Procurement Fund Establishment Bill 2017, due to lack of clarity regarding the manner of disbursement of funds, as well as constitutional issues regarding the powers of the National Assembly to appropriate funds allocated to the 36 state governments and 774 local governments, which conflict with sections 80 to 82 and 120 to 122 of the 1999 Constitution as amended. B. Chartered Institute of Public Management of Nigeria Bill 2017, due to the lack of clarity over the scope of the profession of public management, that this bill prohibits all persons who are not members of the institute from practicing. And the last one, number 3, C. Nigerian Council for Social Works Establishment Bill 2017, due to lack of clarity over the scope of the profession of social works, that this bill prohibits all persons who are not members of the institute from practicing. Please accept, distinguished Senate President, the assurance of my highest consideration. Signed, Mohammed Buhari, President. Dear colleagues, the 3rd of February was the birthday of our distinguished Senator Tijani Yahaya Kaura, and then the 5th of February was the birthday of our Gola Foster, distinguished senator. On behalf of the Senate, let me warmly congratulate you on attending yet a new year in your life and wish you many more years. Congratulations. Senate Leader. Petition.
Petition. Yes. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, Ben Murray Bruce, representing Bayelsa East. I have a petition from war-affected pioneer officers of the Nigerian Air Force. This petition is in respect of the flight of the Nigerian Air Force pioneer cadet officers who were granted presidential pardon after the Civil War, but are yet to be recognized as such to access their benefits. There are no legal ramifications.
Go ahead and lay it. Very well, thank you. It's referred to the Committee on Ethics to report back in 2 weeks. Any other petition? Yes, or Senator Oba.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, Obina by Point Central. Mr. President, I have a petition from one of my constituents, Mr. Ward Desmond. This petition is against Drug Law Enforcement Agency for wrongful dismissal from service. There's no legal impediment against this petition.
Yeah, can you lady report the petition, please? Thank you. It's accordingly referred to the Committee on Petitions and Ethics to report back in 2 weeks. Another petition. Senator Ogabong.
Mr. President, distinguished Senator Mari Wabunwabia North. Mr. President, this is a petition from legal mass solicitors on behalf of my constituents, Mr. Onyema Ejimofo, against the Nigerian police and the Stallion Nigeria Limited, who colluded in arresting him and detaining him in an unknown place as we speak. So they are writing that this Senate should look into this case and ensure that this thing that is purely a private business, but there's a collusion between the police and Stallion, should be brought to a halt and justice should be maintained. Yes.
Can you let the report the petition, please? Thank you. It's referred again to the Committee on Petitions and Ethics to report back in 2 weeks. Another petition. All right, point of order. Mr. Toshin Sani.
Mr. President, I stand as Comrade Senator Shehu Sani to draw the point of order 43, which I will read thus. By the indulgence of the Senate and the leave of the President of the Senate, the Senator may make a personal explanation, although there may be no question before Senate, but no controversial matter may be brought forward, nor may debate arise upon the explanation. The terms of the proposed statement shall be submitted in detail to the President of the Senate when his leave to make it is sought. Mr. President, I have an issue in a local government in one of my constituency. It is called Febuary local government. This local government borders on the states of Zamfara, Kebbi, and Niger State. Mr. President, Febuary local government in the last 2 to 3 years has been under siege. Under the siege of armed headsmen and bandits. Bandits that have made life intolerable to the people of that part of the state. Mr. President, many villages in Febuary local government have been sacked. Farmers don't go to their farms nowadays. Many of the citizens that reside in that local government are now in the headquarters of the local government. A concern is the fact that killings and abductions have become a daily affair. It is one issue that has not been able to get the national attention and the global spotlight. But just a few days ago, about 7 people were killed, and continuously the killings have been so on a daily basis that even the media don't take much time to give it a space in their pages of newspapers. I'm deeply concerned that the government is losing the grip. If we cannot guarantee the safety of lives and properties in this government, this country, I think we have lost the essence of our being in government. Every day, this country is becoming a theater of war. You see bodies of victims killed, dismembered, and shared on social media. There is nowhere in Africa today where you see this grisly and grossly pictures and images being shared every day. I'm deeply concerned that the essence to which we should be in government and address those very important issues have not been given the required attention and the actions that are needed. Of concern to us is the fact that most of these issues are colored in ethnic, religious, and sectional sentiments. They are buried to such a very level that we lose the essence and the value of what we are supposed to do as people in the position of power. I'm deeply concerned. Febuary local government today
has become a centerpiece of abduction and violence and killings. All attempts made have simply been done lackadaisically. There is no much interest on the side of the government to address the problem. It is clear that the areas that attract the attention of the government is the one that is being given the widest publicity. And unfortunately, we are not able to get it in our place. I think it is time for us, all men of goodwill in this country, to tell ourselves the truth, because we are living in self-denial. A denial in the sense that people that are supposed to speak the truth to power have taken in an attitude of silence, and many of them are burying themselves in politics. I'm deeply concerned in the very sense that parts of this country is controlled by government and parts is being controlled by government. For how long will this continue? Violence in all parts of the country. And these systematic killings is becoming widespread and everywhere. How can we say over 100 years after amalgamation, over 5 to 6 decades after independence, that countries like Niger, Cameroon, and Benin Republic, their people can live safely? I'm raising this issue to bring the attention of the authorities that are concerned that there's a need to have a permanent military presence in Febuary and Chukwu local government. Very few days ago, Senator Marafa rose issue about what is happening in Zamfara state. And you should know that Zamfara and Kaduna state are neighboring states. And Febuary is a one stretch of a forest that moved from Zamfara, Kaduna, and up to Niger state. That place is virtually controlled by armed bandits and headsmen, and there is no presence of government there. So it's time to put politics aside and move towards addressing the problems of insecurity in this country. People that are privileged to move to the villa should please spare us the time of telling the truth to people in power, that things are getting worse. Things are getting worse. And there's a need for us to do what we need to do in the best interest of peace, security, and prosperity of this country. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Senator Shehu Sani. He came on down with authority, so he's not open to debate. Let me, on behalf of this Senate, send our deep condolences to those who lost their lives in the incident that happened in those local governments of your state. For 2-3 weeks running, Senator Marafa had been raising this issue regarding Zamfara. And it appears to me that the same forest he's talking about extends all the way to Kaduna and also to Niger State and maybe to Kebbi State. So I think it's time government needs to do something about this. You know, we may be sounding like a broken record, but as parliamentarians and representatives of the people, it's our responsibility to continuously call the attention of government to some of these things. The issue of the monopoly of force should be that of the state, but today the non-state actors have now taken over the issue of violence, which is very regrettable. So we must be able to stamp our feet and be able to show our people that we can protect their lives and properties, which is the primary purpose of government. So I just want to appeal on the government to step up, our responsibilities to ensure that we protect our people, because once these things are happening, it will be affecting us internationally in terms of our public relations, in terms of direct foreign investment, and even the confidence our people have in government will be eroded. So I think that we must all, as a government, do something to stop this level of killing going on in Nigeria. Luckily and happily too, the Senate will be having the Security Summit this week to be able to provide more enduring solution in dealing with this incident of killings going on. So once more, accept our condolences, and I'm sure that by the grace of God, we'll be able to find a way out of this situation we found ourselves. State Leader. Yes, Sir John Eno.
Mr. President, my name is John Oaneno, Cross River Central. Mr. President, I come under Order 42, matter of urgent public importance. And I'd like to read. The matter for discussion shall, if possible, be referred to the President of the Senate before commencement of the day's sitting, and the President of the Senate shall refuse to allow the claim unless he is satisfied that the matter is definite and urgent. Mr. President, just like Senator Shiosami has mentioned, I think there are some matters that affect those that we represent, that we are unable to bring them up here. In itself, it should be a mark of a failure of representation. The current agitations that are going on in the Republic of Cameroon, especially the southern part of Cameroon, for independence and sovereignty under the Ambassadorial Republic, has caused quite a lot of severe refugee crisis in about 4 local governments of Cross River. 3 of these I directly represent: Ikom, Entum, and Boki local governments. One of them is in Cross River North, Obanliko. This matter had been discussed at some point, but the dimension it is going now is such that it's becoming very urgent, very desperate, and very definite that this Senate intervenes more than it's done. Now, on the 25th of January, more than 80 soldiers, armed soldiers from the Republic of Cameroon, invaded one of these border communities.
John, you will come through a formal motion, so we just seek the consent of the Senate to enable you come with a formal motion for another legislative day. Distinguished colleagues, he mentioned this to me earlier and asked him to seek the permission of the Senate in accordance with our rules. Is it on the wish of the Senate that will take this on another legislative day? Thank you. Senate Leader.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the first business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of Senator Stella Odua on the property rights of spouses, Bill 2018. Mr. President, may we invite the Clerk of Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Property Rights of Spouses Bill 2018, SB 190, first reading.
Dear colleagues, Property Rights of Spouses Bill 2018, SB 190, first reading taken. Senate Leader.
Mr. President, Clerk. Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the second business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of Senator Ademola Adeleke on the National Youth Endowment and Development Fund Bill 2018. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, National Youth Endowment and Development Fund Bill 2018, SB 599, first reading.
Dear colleagues, National Youth Endowment and Development Fund Bill 2018, SB 599, first reading taken. Senate Leader.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the third business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of very distinguished Senator, the Chief Whip of the National Assembly, Senator Olusola Adeyi, on the Federal College of Education, Ila Orangu, Osun State, establishment etc. Bill 2018. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of Senate to read the short title.
Clerk of Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Federal College of Education in Orangu, Osun State, Establishment etc. Bill 2018, SB 616, first reading.
It's a very important bill from the Chief Whip of the Senate, Senator Adeye. Federal College of Education in Orangu, Osun State, Establishment etc. Bill 2018, SB 616, first reading taken. Senate Leader.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the fourth business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of Senator Benjamin Uwajimogu on the Job Creation and Protection Bill 2018. Mr. President, may we invite the Clerk of Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Job Creation and Protection Bill 2018, SB 618, first reading.
Very distinguished colleagues, Job Creation and Protection Bill 2018, SB 618, first reading taken. Sir Leader.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the first order of the day is a motion standing in the name of Senator Oloremi Tinubu and 5 others on the need to immediately ban tobacco companies from targeting school children in Nigeria. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Oloremi Tinubu to move the motion.
Dear colleagues, this bill is being sponsored by Senator Manu Sabe, Shen Usani, Olareweju Teju Osho, Binta Garba, Aliu Omako, but the lead sponsor is Senator Tinubu. So we now invite Tinubu to kickstart the debate.
Thank you, Mr. President. Oluremi Tinubu, representing Lagos Central Senatorial District, and I'm privileged this morning to be moving the motion for the need to immediately ban tobacco companies from targeting school children in Nigeria. And like Mr. President already mentioned, that it's been sponsored by 5 other senators, which I appreciate them for. The Senate is however worried that there is a deliberate ploy by tobacco companies to position tobacco adverts and signs within 100 meters of schools to stimulate children and youth into early interest in use of tobacco products. Senate is further worried about the deliberate positioning of the location of point of sales of tobacco products within 100 meters of schools to attract attention of children and youth. Aware that the survey carried out by Nigerian Tobacco Research Group in 5 states across 4 geopolitical zones unearthed the location of tobacco products points of sales within visible distance of schools, with several being 100 meters or less away from schools. Senate also is aware that some of the affected schools with regards to distance from tobacco point of sales include King's Secondary School at Bani Road, Enugu, which is about 37 meters, Mother Care International Nursery and Primary School, Nasarawa, 13 meters, Dambo College, Chalawa Road, Kaduna, 12 meters, Ikra Primary School, Odeaje, Ibadan, 14 meters, Agidingbi Junior Secondary School, Lagos, 20 meters, Herbert Macaulay Primary School, Yaba, Lagos, 2 meters, Aguda Community High School, Aguda Surulere, Lagos, 10 meters. Senate notes that this is a conflagration of the Framework Convention of Tobacco Control and the National Tobacco Control Act 2015, which has its aim to be the prevention and substantial reduction of accessibility of tobacco and tobacco products to young people. Senate is disturbed because tobacco consumption has been associated with lung cancer, myocardial infarction, chronic bronchitis, cardiovascular diseases, etc. Tobacco use is a cause of preventable death in the world, and it is projected that at least 8 million deaths annually will be recorded as a result of tobacco use in 2030. Senate notes also that annually the tobacco epidemic is sustained by the addition of many youth to the population of smokers. Reports have shown that 4 out of every 5 adult smokers started smoking at the age of 18. Further notes that the display of tobacco and tobacco products alongside confectionaries purchased and consumed by children and adolescents may lead to exposure, experimentation, and use. Reminded that Nigeria is a party to the Framework Convention on Tobacco Control. Senate is further reminded that the National Tobacco Control Act was ascended to in 2015 and prohibits sales of cigarettes to persons under age 18, sales of cigarettes from vending machines, sale of single sticks or packs of less than 20 sticks, prohibits advertisement, sponsorship, and promotion of tobacco products, bans smoking in schools, health facilities, playgrounds, and public spaces, etc. Senate is determined to protect Nigerian children from aggressive marketing tactics of profiteering tobacco companies. Senate, however, accordingly resolves to 1. Urge the Federal Ministry of Health and other relevant enforcement agencies to ensure the comprehensive prohibition of tobacco advertising, promotion, sponsorship, such as cigarette advertisement within or on window stores and kiosks, advertisement of smokeless or flavored tobacco, and tobacco logo symbols on non-tobacco objects. 2. Urge the Ministry of Health and Education at federal and state levels to work together to ban location of point of sales of tobacco products within 100 meters of all schools. 3. Urge the Federal Ministry of Health and other relevant enforcement agencies to urgently ensure a framework for the monitoring of the implementation of the ban on single sticks and cigarette packs with less than 20 sticks as detailed in the National Tobacco Control Act 2015. 4. Urge the Federal Ministry of Health to promote and advertise the no sale of tobacco to minors image. I want to thank my Mr. President and my distinguished colleagues for allowing me to move this motion. And sorry to tobacco smokers. Thank you.
All right, Senator James Manager.
Thank you, Mr. President. My highly respected colleagues, James Manager, Delta South. Mr. President, I rise to second this very important motion. And in seconding it, Mr. President, I want to add very few words, very few. Mr. President, with apologies to tobacco consumers in these chambers and in the country, I am not one of them anyway, but I do know that there are quite a sizable number of people who consume tobacco, and I think they enjoy doing it, and therefore I don't want to condemn them. But if you ask them, Mr. President, they will tell you when and how they started it, and that's the reason why this motion is very apt. Because children are very gullible. They can adapt, they can adopt anything they see. And therefore, the target for this particular motion is about the children, the young ones growing up. And once you target the young ones growing up and you get it right, then we can control and even minimize the consumption of tobacco. And of course, consumption of tobacco is associated with so many things, Mr. President, so many things, very dangerous diseases that can kill. And of course, apart from diseases that can kill, there are so many other things. Addiction to tobacco will lead to so many other very dirty things. Mr. President, the society today, one of the greatest problems that we have in the society today is people who are addicted to tobacco in different forms, and they create problems not only for themselves, they also create problems for a greater majority of non-tobacco and also tobacco-consuming public. Mr. President, the law is very clear, and what is important is for the Ministry of Health and other relevant agencies of government to do the needful and enforce this law. And once the law is enforced, I think this problem will be minimized if it's not going to be caught. Mr. President, I support this motion, and I support it with everything in me, because I do know my late father was a chronic smoker. His own grandfather too was a chronic smoker. But believe you me, I grew up under their watchful eyes. But because I felt that thing, that when you take it and it brings out fire, it is meant for others. It's meant for others. And so I grew up with that mentality before I got to know some other ills that are associated with tobacco consumption. Mr. President, this is a good motion, and I urge all my colleagues to support it so that the problems that we have in the society can be minimized. There are just too many problems in the society. Let us get rid of this one. To God be the glory, Mr. President.
Senator Buhari, after Buhari, we take Jubrin, Bagnu Saab, both of his, then we'll go to the prayers.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Buhari Abdul Fattah Oyono. Mr. President, in supporting this motion, one is amazed that at the 21st century, up till now in this part of the world, there's still advert on tobacco. The saddest aspect of it is that something fundamental is really wrong with our security. If a tobacco advert is placed within the area and premises of the school children. In the developed world today, it is written there, you are not even allowed to advertise, you are not allowed to sell a cigarette to a minor. Then, if that be the case, the law enforcement should try as much as possible and enforce our law so that selling tobacco, even with adults, you are amazed that what is it that they are gaining there? If you are not smoking, nothing will happen to you. If you are traveling, say for example, from Abuja to London, you are not allowed to smoke. If you are traveling from London to say Australia, which is about 19 hours non-stop, you are not allowed to smoke. And considering all this, consider this problem tobacco cause people, they write it there. So tobacco is dangerous to your health. But still, people still smoke. If you want to smoke and you are around 30, 40, if you choose to smoke. But targeting our children is something we should not allow at all. And we should take this serious and inform the law enforcement agent so that at least no matter what happens, area where the children are should be advertisement of tobacco. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Jubrin.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am Barrow Jubrin. I represent Kano North. Mr. President, this is a very, very beautiful motion, very important, eloquently moved by the mover and sponsor or the lead sponsor of this motion, Senator Oluremi Tinubu. I commend her, and I urge my other colleagues in this Halo chamber to also commend her for her diligence. She's very diligent. She has done what the Minister of Health and other agencies that are saddled with the responsibility of ensuring that tobacco does not cause harm, not only to our youth, but to the entire people of this country. That is their duty. They failed to do it, but she has done it. Because this is very, very serious and worrisome development. In a situation where the youth are targeted. And they are very tactical in doing this thing, the tobacco companies. Because they know that we have a growing population. And the moment they are able to introduce tobacco smoking to these young people, then their clients or their customers will increase, and which is inimical to our own development. It's a very, very tactical thing they are doing, which is capable of causing harm to our country. And as I said earlier, the Ministry of Health and other agencies should have known this trend and try to arrest the situation, but they didn't do it. So the important thing, Mr. President, is to call on Ministry of Health to live up to their duty in making sure that tobacco is not allowed to get introduced to our youths, not only even to our youths, to even a kind of limit the sale and the fact that it is dangerous to the health of our people. Find a way to make sure that just the way it is done in other parts of the world. As I said earlier by Senator James Manager and my friend Buhari, in most countries there are stringent rules curtailing the spread of tobacco smoking. Even here we have the law. The act is there, but it's not being implemented. So, Mr. President, we need to take stringent move by making sure that the prayers of this motion, is well implemented, well carried out in a way that will stop this ugly trend. We know the danger of cigarette tobacco smoking. It has already been explained by Senator James Manager. I don't need to say that again. So we should take this motion seriously and call on Ministry of Health and other agencies to be on their toes so that they can perform their mandate in curtailing the spread of cigarette smoking in this country in a way that it will not pose major problems to our country, just like other problems that we are having currently. I so submit, Mr. President. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Senator Bagu Sabe.
Mr. President, my distinguished and eminent colleagues, I'm going to be very brief. I know that this motion enjoys the support of almost all senators in these chambers. I have nothing against those who choose to smoke cigarettes or whatever. But the problem we have here is that when people are not allowed to be matured enough, to be aware enough, to know of the consequences of a choice before they make it, then what happens to them thereafter becomes the responsibility of those of us who allowed them into that danger without warning them. Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, today in the world, everybody knows that smoking exposes you to lung cancer and to other diseases that will ultimately shorten your life. But a lot of young people, at the time they are being lured into smoking cigarettes, are not aware of these dangers and consequences. And the tobacco companies themselves have come to realize that if people are allowed to be old enough and mature enough before they can choose whether to smoke or not, it is clear that their sales and their ability to attract new customers will go down. So they tend to portray smoking as glamorous to young people, and these people get lured into smoking. And by the time they are old enough to know of the dangers of smoking, it is often too late, too difficult, and too addictive for them to quit. And so they sustain the market for the tobacco companies. I believe, Mr. President, and my distinguished colleagues, it is our responsibility to make sure that those who smoke in this country should be people who are old enough to know the dangers of smoking, and they have chosen and elected to do so by themselves. Our children cannot be lured into being customers to tobacco companies and making profit for tobacco companies at the expense of their lives and at the expense of the health of our society. It is for that reason, Mr. President and my distinguished colleagues, that I wholeheartedly support this motion. And I urge that we do all we can to prevent children from having access to tobacco at a very young age. Thank you very much.
All right, finally, Senator Borofis.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Robert Agabov, representing Ondo North Senatorial District. I rise to support this motion that will prevent our young ones being exposed at very early age to tobacco. Mr. President, all over the world we know the difficulty that the legal system has put before tobacco making companies to operate. Consequently, they have relocated to developing countries, and we are victim of this. Sir, I always wonder why we always lag behind in taking measures that will prevent and promote the welfare of our people. Locating or trying to lure young ones into tobacco smoking is criminal. And I believe that urgent actions ought to be taken. The statistics here shows that this criminal act by tobacco companies is national. It's not only restricted to particular part of the country. And when we know the prognosis of using tobacco, when a child starts at a very early age, before he attains the age of 30, he is becoming very, very vulnerable to certain diseases like cancer, emphysema, lung cancer. Sir, one other thing is that when you use people who are role models to advertise cigarettes, the tendency is that the younger ones will want to emulate them. And that is a big problem. And so, it is very important that at this stage, that the Ministry of Health takes adequate action to ensure that these criminal acts by tobacco companies are limited or restricted, so that we do not expose our young ones to this dangerous tendency. Mr. President, there is evidence that 1 out of every 5 tobacco smokers also migrate or rather graduate into using drugs, hard drugs, like cannabis. So it is very important that we protect our youth from this dangerous exposure. Because of this, I strongly support this motion, and I also encourage my colleagues to do so. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, thank you, distinguished colleagues. We listened to the debate, and I think it's been well canvassed. One of the things that comes with being a minor is the fact that you need protection of the adults. And that's why our laws try to protect the younger ones in different dimensions, including the driving, use of alcohol, cigarettes, and even sexual activities, because they're not in a position to make informed decisions. So I believe that the Tobacco Control Act have also made elaborate provisions on how to protect the younger ones against all the problems that comes with smoking. And it's unfortunate that we are here being asked again to ensure the enforcement of those provisions, because the powers of government are settled in the Constitution and they're all shared. Under Section 4 of the Constitution, the legislature, which is the Parliament, is given the responsibility of making the laws. Then Section 5 gives the executive the powers to execute the laws, and when there is any infraction, it goes to the judiciary for interpretation or adjudication. So in a situation where to perform their duty under Section 4, and then the executive is failing their duties to enforce these laws, I believe it is very regrettable. So at this point, we'll be just calling on the executive, especially the Minister of Health, to ensure adequate compliance with these laws. And I believe too that as parents and as legislators, we have also a responsibility to call the attention of the police or law enforcement agencies where these laws are flouted, so that appropriate actions, especially criminal actions, should be meted against those who are flouting the laws. So we thank those who have sponsored this bill, this motion, and I do hope that by this motion now, the consciousness would have been risen to protect our young ones from the effect of smoking and then the advertising that comes with it. So having said this, distinguished colleagues, let us quickly go to the prayers. Prayer 1. Urge the Federal Minister of Health and other relevant enforcement agencies to ensure the comprehensive prohibition of tobacco advertising, promotion, and sponsorship, such as cigarette and advertisements within and on windows, stores and kiosks, advertisements of smokeless or flavored tobacco and tobacco logo symbols on non-tobacco objects. Those in support of this prayer say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 2. Urge the Minister of Health and Education at the federal and state levels to work together to ban advertisement and location of point of sales of tobacco products within 100 meters of all schools. Those in support of this prayer say aye. Yes, Senator Oji.
Thank you, Excellency. My name is Oji Ochendo, Abia Central. Excellency, I want to make an amendment here on this number 2, and the amendment is urge the Ministries of Health, Education and Information, because this ministry is key in disseminating the information against this. I want the ministry to be included. That is my amendment.
Do you have a problem with that? He's saying that we just add Minister of Information regarding the prayer too.
I would like to second that too. It's good.
Okay, that's fine. Those in support of prayer 2 as amended say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 3. All the Federal Ministry of Health and other relevant enforcement agencies to urgently ensure a framework for the monitoring of the implementation of the ban on single sticks and cigarette packs with less than 20 sticks as detailed in National Tobacco Control Act. Those in support of this prayer say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. And finally, urge the Federal Ministry of Health to promote and advertise the no sale of tobacco to minors signage. Those in support of this prayer say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Any additional prayer? Yes. Mr. Samuel.
Yeah, I am Senator Sam Ebu. I represent Ebonyi North Central District. President, I want to now make my additional prayer by trying to address the tobacco companies themselves, not just the ministries. And my additional prayer would be with us to urge all tobacco companies to henceforth stop the advertisement and location of point of sales of tobacco products within 100 meters of all schools. That is my additional prayer.
Can you take it again? Microphone.
To now urge all tobacco companies to henceforth stop the advertisement and location of point of sales of tobacco products within 100 meters of all schools.
Is anybody seconding that? Senator Bangui-Sabe.
Mr. President, I cannot leave such a good amendment unseconded. So I most respectfully second it as moved. Thank you, sir.
All right, those in support of the additional prayer that we urge the tobacco companies to stop all kinds of advertisement 100 meters to such places, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Say leader.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the second order of the day is a motion standing in the name of Senator Peter Nwobushi on the scarcity of lower denomination currency notes. Mr. President, the distinguished senator is not in. I will therefore move that we stand down the consideration of this motion till another legislative day. I so move.
Party leader.
Mr. President, I second the motion that we stand down this item to another legislative day.
Dear colleagues, those in support of the prayer that will stand down this motion to another legislative day say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Senate leader.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, similarly, the Senate Deputy Chief Whip, Senator Eli McKenna, has requested that we stand down his motion till another legislative day. So I move that we stand down the motion till another legislative day.
Mr. President, I second that we stand down this item till another legislative date.
Dear colleagues, those in support of the motion that will stand down this other motion to another legislative day say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Senate leader.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the fourth order of the day is a motion standing in the name of Senator Chukwuka Utazi on the socio-economic importance of rural roads. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Chairman Senate Committee on Anti-Corruption, Senator Chukwuka Utazi, to move the motion.
Senator Utazi.
Thank you, sir. I am Senator Chukwuka Utazi. I represent the good people of Enugu North Central District of Enugu State. I rise to move the motion on the socio-economic importance of rural roads. The Senate notes the importance of road infrastructure to social and economic development of the country. The Senate notes also that construction of roads bring multiple socio-economic benefits that traverse all human settlements of the areas of the road and form a strong base for the national economy, as it is a powerful instrument for the socio-economic transformation of cities, towns, villages, and economic hubs. This Senate are aware that the provision of roads has the visible benefits of increased mobility, increased productivity, saving in cost of transportation of men and material, speedier flow of commodities, improved standard of living, and enhanced lifestyles, as roads as a major instrument for the creation of wealth, particularly the provision and construction of roads and road links, especially those that pass through rural areas, form a strong backbone for the agro-based economy. This Senate are aware that there are many such important roads across the states of the Federation with rural content that should be constructed to achieve a broad-based agroeconomic and youth empowerment integration. This Senate informed, for instance, that the Mpolobu, Onubobo, Ogoro, Opata, Adaba, Nkume, Umuroba, Umumbo, Omo Road, which are about the foot belt of Enugu and Anambra states, and which was captured in the 2018 budget for design and construction under the Federal Ministry of Works, Power and Housing, is archetypical of the characteristics of a critical road that will have a huge impact on the agroeconomy of these areas and help the government reduce hunger and poverty, create wealth, and give the countryside a facelift. This Senate informed that the road is a major artery that traverses through Usowani local government area of Enugu State and Anyamelum local government area of Anambra State. As part of the road already constructed by the Enugu State government through Umulopa feeds the 9-mile corner road, a major federal road. Both Usowani and Enugu, both Usowani and Anyamelum are the food baskets of both Enugu and Anambra states, as 90% of the rice produced by both states come from this belt. There are other associated agro products like okra, maize, watermelon, and garden coming from this food belt. This Senate convinced that the construction of the road and other such like roads will ensure the evacuation of these This Senate convinced that the construction of the road and other such like roads will ensure the evacuation of these agricultural products that are produced in commercial quantity along that belt, thereby creating gainful employment for the youth, control rural-urban migration, and help the nation attain self-sufficiency in essential food production. This Senate informed that despite budgetary provisions for the road, there is no feasible work on the road, and the people of these areas who were initially hopeful that at last the huge agricultural produce of the areas will go to the markets instead of rotting after harvest are now concerned whether the federal government has forgotten about them. This Senate concerned that the federal government, as a way of tackling the high youth unemployment, pursuant to its policy to revive and diversify the economy, has been strident in asking the youth of the country to return to the farms and to agriculture as a means of wealth creation and empowerment, a co-op which many young persons have subscribed to in these areas. Yet, the government does not seem to provide the necessary basic infrastructure to support the youth in their quest to be self-employed. This is convinced that a lot of criminalities like kidnappings, armed robbery, menacing hooliganism, and other vices which have been on the increase around these areas will be drastically minimized with the construction of this road. And the youth who take advantage of the many water sources in the area can be gainfully engaged all year round and will legitimately make themselves wealthy. This Senate observes that considering the immense socio-economic benefits of this road, there is need for increased budgetary allocation of the road in 2018 budget. And this Senate accordingly resolves, 1, to urge the federal government through the Federal Ministry of Works to roll over the 2017 allocations for the Mpologu, Ovoro, Umuloba, Omumbo, Omo roads and increase the 2018 provision for same to harness the socio-economic benefits of the road. And 2, and finally, identify and ensure the construction of rehabilitation of critical rural roads across the country that are used for the evacuation of agricultural products in order to facilitate the attainment of the country's goal for food sufficiency. Mr. President, this motion is a straightforward one, which I know that if this Senate gives the support and lend the huge support that we need, this road will be passed. And then we compel the Federal Ministry of Works to help us get this complete, because it's a road that we cut across. It's a major road that goes between my central district and the next central district.
Senator, we have heard the others have to contribute. Senator Wake.
Your Excellency, Mr. President, distinguished senators, my name is Senator Madam Ali Wakili, MNI. I represent Bauchi South. Your Excellency, sir, let me start first by congratulating my Wendy number for his continuous love for his people, for his patriotism, for the fact that he is always conscious that he is inside this chamber to represent his people. I thank him for that. Secondly, let me say that the motion is very apt, most especially as it is in tandem with the federal government's Economic and Recovery Act program that sought to develop the rural areas, that sought to ensure that there is food security, that sought to ensure that our people are secured. Thirdly, sir, in supporting this motion, all the variables that happens into his constituency are the same variables that are inadvertently happening in my own constituency. My constituency has the greatest population in the state, has the greatest land mass, is the food basket of the state and the neighboring states, but unfortunately there are no accessible roads. If you look at it, outside the roads that traverse from Plateau that go through Gombe, and the new ones that through some of our efforts inside the State Assembly that we are constructing, the constituency doesn't have even good rural networks that are all seasonal roads. We discovered that during the rainy season, most of the towns that are very big towns that are the food basket of the states are hardly connected to. Right now, like what is happening in the constituency, I have a road that the federal government has started constructing for the last 5 years, sir. This road is very, very vital and very critical. It starts from Yashi, it goes to Yalwa, it goes to Duguri, it goes to Yuli, and it goes into Taraba State. I have made conscious efforts to write the Honorable Minister of Works on the condition of this road, on the condition of the contract, on the need for him to revisit it, on the need for us to have funding on it. I have made efforts through the Works Committee to provide for funds, but unfortunately it is yet to yield dividends for me. And even my letters to the Honorable Minister of Works on the road has not been acknowledged. And I hope through this motion, the Ministry of Works will be up and doing. They will ensure that some of these letters are acknowledged. The Federal Ministry of Agriculture too has a role here to play in this issue of rural roads. You go to my state, as I said that, and my constituency, sir. You traverse from Kirfi to Wanka to Dewu, and it goes to Nafada in Gombe State. You go to Goshe, via Kardam, via Mursu, via Kundum. Or you go to Burgen, to Gori, to Kundum, to Zari. Or you go from Burgen to Shal, to Daji. Or you go from Bundot to Dabandak, to Bula, and subsequently to Jambil. Or you go from Lerema village to Ragami, to Bulli, to Kufay, and it goes into Plateau State. Or you go from Nabardo to Jamaa Gari and other things. You discover that these are the food basket of the state. There are a large chunk of population. There are deficits of all infrastructural facilities. And that if we will have rural roads connected, we'll discover that everybody will be living happily. I support Senator Otazi's motion that is very explicit and is very direct, and I call on this distinguished Senate to request the Excellency, the presiding officer, to put it to question, and that where on his second prayers we have roads that we want it to be listed, then you can graciously allow us to list it so that it comes out on the proceedings. Thank you for the opportunity, distinguished.
All right, we take Senator Stella Odra, Dada Wallahan, Kurufi, and then we'll go to the prayers. Senator Odra.
Thank you, Your Excellency, Mr. President of the Senate. Mr. President, I want to commend the mover of this motion for its significance and relevance. Mr. President, this particular road, lack of the presence of this particular road, Mr. President, you'll be shocked to hear that we lose on the average every day from the farm produce that come from these rural communities on the average of 1.something billion annually, and the potential loss of youths that ordinarily would have been farmers, not just farmers but entrepreneurs. This can't happen because when they finish at the end of every year, bringing their produce to the market becomes a challenge. Mr. President, this community road is more than a community road. It's actually an interstate road, but passes through several communities, and these communities are agro-based communities. Mr. President, the last check was that the economic potential of these communities are very, very high, and an airport is being situated not too far from two of these communities. Mr. President, I think if there is genuinity and honesty in looking for alternative source of revenue for this country and stopping youth unemployment, then priority must be given to rural road construction. Not just this, but all rural roads, particularly those that have economic potential. And this one happens to be A when it's graded. And so, Mr. President, I want to support this motion and urge Ministry of Works to prioritize this particular road and ensure that they put it back on budget for 2018 and indeed increase the value from what it was last year to this year. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Bolan.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. colleagues, I stand to put my voice in favor of this motion. But one issue I'd like to raise is let's look at the cost implication of these roads. Can we standardize cost factors whereby the cost can be passed on local government by partnership with businessmen who are interested to do rural roads? Rural roads are part of the energizer for the economy of community development. Even my colleague mentioned evacuation of food produce from there. But if you see the cost of roads compared to what they do in the city, they're almost about the same. can we now come together and come forward with a framework? How best can we finance these rural roads for our community? I feel one of the best ways to be that EduBOP as the Business of Personal Sourcing Services, that where local government can partner with those who are willing, and we shall put a toll on it. The toll will not be too expensive, but it can pay for itself, whereby if we encourage more roads to be built across the country. Because if you see the state of our rural roads, they are terrible. If you go to India, they have arch roads, most of the places, but arch roads are well reinforced and they are perfect. So we don't need to put asphalt on many of them. Let's use arch roads and make it standardized, reinforce, compact it. After a while, it becomes gradually upgraded into asphalt grade. Because the 80% of our rural roads are 80% of the country, 90% of the country, rural roads are untouched. And the wear and tears on vehicles and resources is so much that the replacement cost of all those who affect the economy in general. And we move that the House should try and talk to the Minister of Finance and Minister of Works to have a special grant for rural roads as a project for the nation. The rural communities in this country have not been heavily, they don't benefit more than the development as a nation. We should pay emphasis, make sure that at least in every local government, in 1 year or two, 4 or 5 roads are constructed. If we can do that across the years, we can do a large number of this road over the period. So that's my contribution. Thank you.
Dr. Kofi.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues. My name is Senator Omar Ibrahim Kurifi, representing Katsina Center. Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, this is a very good promotion to all of us, especially those of us who are from the rural area. But one important thing I want people to note is the rural roads are the responsibility of local government and the state. If we bring this to our state now, exactly, since the time of late Sadona, I won't know anything. Rural roads are meant to be repaired by provinces. Provinces or native authority. Rural roads, if we are going to the outside, we have to now implement rural road. It means we have to integrate another road. Rural roads should be repaired by the state, national, and local government. If we now say that we are going to, we are involving a lot of jobs, which is not the responsibility of federal government. We all the time we know, if my local government, rural roads are being repaired by state. Some of them even are repaired by local government. So I don't see why we should now go to rural roads. Rural roads should be repaired by state and local government, not federal government. I think that's my contribution.
All right, that's supposed to be the last, but let me finally take the Deputy Senate Leader, Senator Nala.
Well, I just wanted to offer some guidance so that we don't lose the steam of the issue of importance of roads to our economic development as a nation. Even under the most trying time in the history of this country, when the military came, you will remember that, or let me say when they were in power, you will remember that there was this aggressive approach to open all roads in this country so that to make good movement of goods and services easier. And therefore there was this Directorate of Roads, D3 or what? Yeah, yes, thank you very much. For rural infrastructure and whatever, and whatever it is, yes. Now the idea then was, it has been realized that to rely on state governments to open these roads was almost practically impossible. And therefore federal might was necessary for the purpose of opening this. After all, the economy we are talking about is the economy of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, not the economy of Ebonyi or KB or somewhere. The fact remains that this issue affects every section of this country. And therefore a call to have a second look at it and its importance cannot be overemphasized. So that's why I said it's important that we offer some guidance. Government is a continuous process. The vision of those who are in power, even though illegally so and unconstitutionally so, having transferred that to the constitutional body like us, we have to continue to look at that vision just for the purpose of making sure that
things continue to work for our great country, the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Thank you, sir.
All right, distinguished colleagues, thank you so much. I think the point has been made. The issue whether a road is a highway or a rural road is all matters of technicalities anyway. I think the technical people will decide that. But for us as a parliament, I think we should be concerned on the need for road sector development, because once we're developing a road sector, it comes with a lot of implication. It has the health and environmental issues, because once the roads are good, it reduces the issue of the airborne diseases. And if you do roads, every road you do is generally, in terms of the economic social implication, is an economic corridor. Because once roads are coming up, you begin to see filling stations, cottage industries, and stuff like that. And it helps with the promotion of agricultural production and distribution, you know. So, and I think that it's also create jobs, because each road you are doing, people are get involved, and jobs are created, and wealth is also redistributed. So, it is important that we address the issue of road construction or road development all around Nigeria. So, having said this, distinguished colleagues, I want to thank Senator Tazi and all those who contributed to this debate. And as he says, it's a straightforward motion, so we'll quickly go to the prayers and then see what we are able to achieve. Prayer 1. Amendment. Yes, Senator Obama.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, I want to also thank Senator Tazi for this all-important motion that has national outreach and outlay. I have amendments on the two, but I start with the first one. I think they should urge the federal government, through the Federal Ministry of Power, Works and Housing, to roll over to all 2017 allocations for roads and increase the 2018 provision for same to harness the socio-economic benefits of the roads. What I'm saying is that, one, it should be Federal Ministry of Power, Works and Housing, because we don't have Federal Ministry of Works now. Then two is to roll over all allocations on roads identified already in 2017 to 2018. That is my first amendment. Then the second one I will come later.
Is there a second in the amendment? Yes,
thank you, Mr. President. Gershon Bassi, Cross River South. I rise to second the motion, the amendment moved by Senator Mao.
Distinguished colleagues, those in support of the prayer 1 as amended, that is to urge the federal government through the Federal Minister of Power, Works and Housing to roll over the 2017 allocation for all roads and increase the 2018 provision for same to harness social economic benefits of all roads. Say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 2. Identify and ensure the construction of rehabilitation of critical roads across the country that are used for evacuation of agricultural products in order to facilitate the attainment of the country's goal for food sufficiency. Yes, Honorable.
Mr. President, distinguished Senator, Senator Mao Wabungwabia North. Identify is to nobody. I think that the prayer they should go accordingly resolved to mandate the Committee on Agriculture and Rural Development to ensure the construction, to identify and ensure the construction or rehabilitation of critical rural roads across the country that are used for the evacuation of agricultural products in order to facilitate the attainment of the country's goal for food sufficiency. So I said we have mandated the Committee on Agriculture and Rural Development to identify and ensure the construction.
Anybody seconding that? Senator Theoji.
Thank you, Your Excellency. My name is Theoji Ochendo, Abia Central. I second this proposal from Senator Mao as an amendment.
All right. So prayer 2, mandate the Committee on Agriculture and Rural Development to identify and ensure the construction of and the rehabilitation of critical railroads across the country that are used for the evacuation of agricultural products in order to facilitate the attainment of the country's goal for food sufficiency. Those support of this prayer say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Say leader.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, because the sponsor of the 5th order is not here, I move that we stand down the consideration of this order till another legislative day.
Party leader.
Mr. President, distinguished senator, I second the motion that will step down the next item on the order paper.
Dear colleagues, those support of the motion that will step down this order, this item in the order paper to another legislative day, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Send leader.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the sixth order of the day is a motion standing in name of Senator Ademola Adeleke on the need to post junior cadre of the Nigeria Police Force to their states and local governments to enhance community policing in Nigeria. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Ademola Adeleke to move the motion.
Mr. Adeleke.
I, Senator Ademola Adeleke, hereby move the motion. The need to post junior cadet of the Nigerian Police Force to their state and local government to enhance community policing in Nigeria. The colonial master came to Nigeria and met the people without Western education, but well-established monarchy that governed the citizen internally with their security operation that cater and safeguard lives and properties within the various ethnic groups in Nigeria. Further note that the colonial master, on the advent of their administration, recognized the importance of native authority, as he quickly recognized community policing under the native local authority, police with direct control, supervision and management of the paramount rulers, traditional rulers, chiefs, who were sole administrators of their respective domains in various provinces. I appreciate the fact that the police system under the colonial rule worked as aid was complemented by the effective prison service, law courts that were thoroughly supervised and at times manned by the colonial master. Concern that government inconsistency in policy implementation has affected the Nigerian policies, welfare and well-being, and by necessary implication, their impact, which also adversely affected the citizens in the society in terms of service delivery. Whereas it is desirable that the lower rank of the Nigerian police constable to the rank of inspector be posted to their respective state of origin to improve and impact positively on community policing through sanitizing with vigilante groups, traditional rulers, so as to address the current state of insecurity in the country. Aware that there has been calls for creation of state police in order to provide a lasting solution to the perennial security challenges due to the ineffectiveness or outright bias of Nigerian police force in carrying out their national assignment. Further concern that the disconnect between the Nigerian police and the various communities with their different cultural values and orientation created in vacuum that needed to be filled through community policing in order to avail the federal police the opportunity to concentrate on its primary duties of the detention, prevention, prosecution of crime at the national level. Okay.
Yes, Sir Butcher.
Accordingly resolved to urge the...
I thought you are done. Oh, okay. Put back your microphone.
accordingly to resolve to all the Senate to invite the Inspector General of Police to suggest ways and means of actualizing community policing. Thank you.
Chabacha.
Thank you, Mr. President. Distinguished colleagues, I remain Senator Emmanuel Boacha, I represent Taraba South. Mr. President, this motion is important to the extent of the call for the state police, which is a very popular agitation in this country. And there is no time in the history of this nation that this call has become very, very relevant than now. This is because there are a lot of complications in the security architecture. The insinuations, the innuendos that have been raised by individuals and that are apparently looking very, very justified because of placement of strategic areas of security formations. If in the face of a state police, one is sure of who are the new faces in town, because there's going to be a collaboration between these officers and the vigilantes as suggested by the mover of this motion, and traditional rulers as well. I have a case in point where state police will have paid off and served its desired purpose at this time. The recent killings in Boko, of course, is said to be a reprisal attack, but the pattern was quite unfortunate. It led to the arrest of the perpetrators because the DPO of that area was said to be a chief man who made it easier for authorities to locate some suspects. This would have been very, very difficult if the DPO were not an indigent. And I don't know why or what we are afraid of this community policing. What is there that the government at the center doesn't want to embrace this policing? If we do not, we will continue to sink deeper and deeper into the crisis we are going through now. Because there seems to be no end in sight, except probably after our security summit, and we are able to convince government that, look, this thing has been done wrong. The federal character law has not been obeyed, and that is why we have been sinking there, because the security agencies are not to be trusted. Of course, some of them may mean very well, and they are doing their best, but if there is already a mindset that, no, this man is serving an agenda that is not known to me, so it will be very difficult for confidence to be built. And that is why if we have a state police, it makes it easier to maintain law and order. When you see somebody getting involved in a very lawless and reckless killing, you ask him, you tell where there is lawlessness, it is illegal to be law-abiding. That appears to be very common this in the mouth of people who have taken the law into their hands. Now, if we embrace this state police, in fact, 90% of our problem will have been solved, because traditional rulers, vigilante group, and the police official will be able to know who are the strangers in their midst. Because the people wreaking havoc, killing people now, are actually sponsored elsewhere. It is generally believed, of course, with the strong connivance of Nigerians who are highly placed, that are encouraging this. I pray that this motion will send a message to those who are involved and those who are concerned that the matter will be addressed, and then we'll have reduced the challenges we are facing. I so call on my colleagues to support this motion. Having spoken thus far, I second this motion, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. I remain Sam Ebu, Senator representing Ebonyi, North Senatorial District. I wish to support this important motion by no other person than Senator Ademola Adeleke, who, despite being a senator, has continued to gain a lot of popularity, because you will agree with me that he's the best dancer among the senators here. Having said that, Mr. Chairman,
this motion is very important to the extent that when a junior police officer is posted out of his state to a distant state, a lot of socio-economic problem is immediately activated, because the junior officer, in leaving his state of origin to another state, immediately suffers the issue of accommodation. Considering the fact that the Nigerian police does not boast of adequate accommodation for their men, it becomes very, very imperative and difficult for such junior officers to get accommodation. Mr. Chairman, you need to see the state of affairs of the junior officers when they are posted to other states. They live like prisoners. They live like people without families. They suffer as if posting to other states is a punishment. And not only that they suffer this issue of accommodation, the issue of families they have left behind, including children that are going to school, becomes a problem for such junior officers. They need to think about how to get their salaries and save to their families and take care of their children in schools. We are aware that they still receive one of the poorest salaries in the country. So it is even a major issue, it's even a hardship for posting these junior officers outside their state. So Mr. Chairman, in supporting this motion, I want to add that apart from the security implication, because like the former speaker said, these junior officers know their terrain very well. They are more effective in detecting crime than people who are from other states. So I want to support this motion seriously by saying that this motion will go a long way to addressing this issue of hardship of the junior officers, so that when they are allowed to work and stay in their states, the issue of accommodation is resolved, because they can stay in their family homes and then operate and become more effective than operating in a foreign land where they have nobody to cater for their family. So I so support that this motion be given the desired attention. Thank you, Mr. President.
So then I would take go to prayer.
Thank you very much, our distinguished President. I'm Olushola Adeyeye from Osun Central. I rise to support this motion and to thank my brother and friend from Osun. I'm the son of the Balogun of Ora, and he is the son of the Balogun of Ede, and two Baloguns. You've keep quiet. Keep quiet. I rise to support this motion because indeed the atmosphere of insecurity in contemporary Nigeria has shown that the time has come when we must find every means to enhance community policing. And so I want to applaud the observations of Senator Adeleke. I also want to applaud the efforts that went into this motion. I have only two brief comments. Comment number one, it seems as if we have come full circle. Those of us who are old enough will remember that during the constitutional crisis of the late 60s, events in our nation got to a point where there was a suggestion that all policemen and all members of the armed forces should go to their region of origin. It is sad, extremely sad and tragic. Kebbi North and Kebbi Central, Katsina South, will you please allow me to speak?
Thank you. Even when you are speaking,
yes, when I'm still speaking, I remain the chief whip.
Yes.
The events of the 60s tragically seem to have been repeating themselves to a point where 50 years later, we are prescribing the same remedy again. We have run the affairs of our republic to a crisis point in which we say, if you don't speak the local language, you are not likely to understand the local affairs. And you are not likely to have the wherewithal to do through policing. After all crimes are local. And if all crimes are local, all policing also must be local. Otherwise, you will not be able to get to the end of the problem. So I agree with my brother totally to that extent. However, my president, sir, you know that I'm a member of the Committee on Police in the Nigerian Senate. I'm aware from our interaction with the IG and the High Command of the Nigerian Police that already a plan has been announced for community policing. But we know that in Nigeria, that plan may not be executed for the next 100 years. However, what we need to find out is how far they have gone with this plan, instead of asking them to reinvent the wheel again. Otherwise, I totally support the motion of my brother, and I commend the brilliant efforts that went into it. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
All right, thank you, very distinguished colleagues. I think the subject of this motion is the community policing. I'm also aware that it's ongoing policy of the Nigerian police to have this community policing in place. But you see, the problem here is that other places where you have community policing, they have a different police architecture. So if you have a federal system of police, and then in which case you have decentralized policing, then it means therefore that the business of the community policing is the business of the sub-national police, as it is in most federal agencies, most federal countries. So that is where it works. But if you have the type we have here, where you have a federal government with a unitary policing system, and you introduce community policing, it's going to be difficult to work. Because if you go to places like America, it is the sub-national police that introduced the community policing. The implication of community policing is that you have a policeman who is within that community, who lives with the community, knows everybody, and patrols his beat on a daily basis. So that works well in a place where you have a decentralized police. Because in Nigeria, for instance, how do you explain that you say, okay, you're sending everybody to his home? There are some communities in Nigeria that don't have a policeman. So if you have a police officer sending everybody to his home, there are about 80% of communities may not have one single policeman. So it's only when you have a decentralized police, in which case each sub-national level of government have their own level of policing, that they can be able to identify each community, recruit policemen from there, and allow them to do community policing. If you don't do that, and you want federal the police we have in Nigeria to do it, we'll continue to be talking about community policing without implementation. If you implement it, it's going to be unworkable. So, but I agree that let us hear the IG, maybe at the level of the community, to tell us exactly what they are doing about community policing. But we must get the structure first, the structure right before we'll be able to have this in place. So having said this, the distinguished colleagues, we go to the only prayer here. Okay, let me read what the prayer is. The prayer is urge the Senate to invite the Secretary of Police to suggest ways and means of actualizing community policing. Yes,
Thank you, Mr. President. Distinguished colleagues, I suggest that as important as this issue is, and given the dissection of the issues that the President of the Senate has given of the relevance of this matter when it comes to sub-national structure of the police force, Senator may recall that we have a committee on security infrastructure, and the summit is going to come on. So I want to amend the plan to say that accordingly resolve to refer the motion to its committee on security architecture infrastructure for further consideration and appropriate recommendations. Because
put it back.
Because at the end of the day, that committee, which is being led by the Senate leader, is looking exactly at some of these issues that have been raised by distinguished Senator Adeleke, and some recommendation on the structure of the police force itself, and maybe the creation of sub-national police forces, are likely going to come up in the recommendations of that committee. And the subject matter which is now being handled by this motion can easily come up, so the committee should look into the subject matter of this motion, so that it will now study it and take appropriate recommendation in the line with the mandate that has been given to it by this distinguished Senate. I so move, Mr. President.
Is anybody supporting the amendment? Nobody. Okay. You have an amendment.
There's a sound. My amendment is a very simple one, arising from the contributions made by everybody, and in particular, the one made by the Senate President. Instead of urging to invite the Inspector General, now direct the Senate Committee on Police Affairs to invite the Inspector General of Police to suggest ways and means of actualizing community policies.
Any person seconding that? Yes, Chief Whip.
I respectfully second the brilliant amendment by my friend and brother from Delta South, distinguished Senator, News Manager, and the President of the Joe Republic in Northern Nigeria.
Thank you, Chief Whip, for supporting that amendment. Distinguished colleagues, in support of the holy prayer here as amended, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Senate Leader. See another amendment. We'll finish with the amendment. But let's have additional prayer.
Mr. President,
the prayer I want to add is that the National Assembly should, as a matter of urgency, commence legislative process of introducing state police. Yeah, I think it's with us. I remember this.
It's our job here to do now. We don't need any person to mandate us. We don't need to mandate ourselves. State Leader.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the seventh and eighth orders of the day are House bills for concurrence as listed on the order paper. Distinguished senators will recall that these bills were read the first time in this chamber on Thursday, the 23rd of November 2018 and Thursday, the 20th July of 2017 respectively. Mr. President, for the simple nature of the amendments, I will use a single lead debate on these bills. Should I go ahead?
Yes, go ahead.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, it is my honor and pleasure to lead the debate on the following bills from the House of Representatives for our concurrence. The bills are 1. National Climate Change Bill 2018, HB 1020, and 2. Chartered Institute of Financial and Investment Analysts of Nigeria, Establishment, etc. Bill 2018, HB 98. The National Climate Change Bill 2018 was read the first time in this chamber on Thursday, the 23rd of November 2017. This bill seeks to mainstream climate change response actions into government policy formulation, establishing the legal framework for implementation of strategic programs, creating the National Climate Change Council, amongst other things. A. Ensure the performance of climate change duties by the public and private sectors of the economy. B. Ensure the mainstreaming of climate change in collaboration with disaster risk management reduction strategy into national, state, local and sectoral development plans and programs. C. Ensure public participation and consultation with relevant stakeholders in accordance with the provisions of the bill. D. Identify and mobilize financial resources to support climate change actions, including powers for the establishment of appropriate mechanisms for the administration and management of any such resources, including any climate change funds established under this bill. And E. Set and oversee the implementation of sectoral targets and guidelines for the regulation of greenhouse gas emissions and other anthropogenic causes of climate change and strategy. The Chartered Institute of Financial and Investment Analysts of Nigeria Establishment Etc. Bill 2018, HB 98, was read the first time in this chamber on Thursday, the 20th of July 2017. The bill seeks to establish the Chartered Institute of Financial and Investment Analysts of Nigeria to regulate the practice of financial investment analysis in Nigeria, establish the governing council of the institute, which is to manage the affairs of the institute to achieve the following: A. Instilling professionalism in financial investment analysis and practices through the holding of conferences, workshops, and seminars and symposia. B. Publishing from time to time rules and regulations to be known as financial investment guidelines and directives for the guidance of the conduct and practices of its members. C. Engaging members in interactive fora on financial investment analysis and delivering papers, literature, and books to members. D. Providing a forum for ensuring best practices among members of the institute. And E. Harmonizing and unifying the disparity in practices among stakeholders within the industrial, commercial, private and public establishments throughout the Federation. Mr. President, my very respected and distinguished colleagues, these bills are not controversial and were subjected to rigorous scrutiny and public hearings in the House of Representatives before passage. I therefore urge you to support the second reading of these bills. Thank you.
All right. In the absence of any contribution, those support that this bills be read the second time, say aye. Aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Clerk of Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, the bill for an act to provide a legal framework for the mainstreaming of climate change responses and actions into government policy formulation, implementation, and the establishment of the National Council on Climate Change and for Related Matters 2018, second reading.
Dear colleagues, a bill for an act to provide a legal framework for the mainstreaming of climate change response and actions into government policy formulation, implementation, and establishment of the National Council on Climate Change and for Related Matters 2018, second reading taken. Clerk of Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to establish the Chartered Institute of Financial and Investment Analysis of Nigeria to regulate and control practice of financial and investment analysis in Nigeria and for other matters connected therewith, 2018, second reading.
Dear colleagues, a bill for an act to establish the Chartered Institute of Financial and Investment Analysis of Nigeria to regulate and control practice of financial and investment analysis in Nigeria and further matters connected therewith, 2018, second reading taken. Senate Leader.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, I move that the Senate resolves into committee of the whole to consider the bills clause by clause.
Minority Leader.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I second that the Senate resolves into the committee of the whole to consider the bills for concurrence.
This is colleagues still support that the Senate now resolve the committee of the whole to consider this report. Say aye. Aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. All right, we'll start with the one on climate change. Those support that clause 1 statement of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 2. Those support that clause 2 statement of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 3. Those support that clause 3 statement of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The The ayes have it. Clause 4. Those in support of clause 4, stamp out of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 5 and 6 and 7. Those in support of clauses 4, 5, 6 and 7, stamp out of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 8. Those in support of clause 8, stamp out of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clauses 9, 10 and 11. Those in support of clauses 9, 10 and 11, stamp out of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 12, 13 and 14. Those in support of clauses 12, 13 and 14, stamp out of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 15, 16 and 17. Those in support of clauses 15, 16 and 17, stamp out of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 18 and page 11. Those in support of clause 18, stamp out of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 19. Those in support of clause 19 at page 12, stamp out of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 20 and 21. Those in support of clauses 20 and 21, stamp out of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 22, 23 and 24 at page 14. Those in support of clauses 22, 23 and 24, stamp out of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 25, interpretation. Those in support of clause 25, stamp out of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Citation, clause 26. Those in support that clause 26, stamp out of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Explanatory memorandum. Those in support that explanatory memorandum, stamp out of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Short title. Those in support that short title is part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Long title at page 1. Those in support that long title is part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Now we'll go to the next one. The one for Institute of Financial and Investment Analysis of Nigeria. Those in support that clause 1 stamp out of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 2. Those in support that clause 2 stamp out of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 3, 4 and 5. Those in support that clauses 3, 4 and 5 stamp out of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 6 at page 4. Those in support that clause 6 at page 4 stamp out of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 7. Those in support that clause 7 stamp out of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 8. Those in support that clause 8 stamp out of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clauses 9 and 10. Those in support that clauses 9 and 10 at page 7 stamp out of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clauses 11, 12, 13 and 14 all at page 8. Those in support that clauses 11, 12, 13 and 14 stamp out of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 15. Those in support that clause 15 at page 9 stamp out of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 16. Those in support that clause 16 stamp out of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 17. Those in support that clause 17 stamp out of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 18. Those in support that clause 18 stamp out of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 19 and 20 at page 14. Those in support that clauses 19 and 20 stamp out of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 21, page 15. Those in support that clause 21 stamp out of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 22. Those in support that clause 22 stamp out of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 23 and 24. Those in support that clause 23 and 24 stamp out of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 25, 26 at page 19. Those in support that clause 25 and 26 stamp out of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 27 at page 20. Those in support that clause 27 stamp out of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 28, 29 and 30, page 21. Those in support that clauses 28, 29 and 30 stamp out of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. clause 31 and 32 and 33. Those in support of clause 31, 32 and 33, step out of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 34, those in support of clause 34, step out of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Those in support of schedules 1, 2, 3, stamp out of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Explanatory memorandum. Those in support of the explanatory memorandum, stamp out of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Short title. Those in support of short title, stamp out of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Long title at page 1. Those in support of long title, stamp out of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Say leader.
Mr. Chairman, very distinguished colleagues, I move that the Senate reverse to plenary for the chair to report progress.
Mr. Chairman, may I second the motion that we revert to plenary to report progress?
Dear colleagues, those in support that chair now report progress say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Dear colleagues, the Senate and the Committee of the Whole considered the National Climate Change Bill 2018 and approved as follows: clause 1 to 15 as recommended, 16 to 25 as recommended, short title as recommended, long title as recommended. Is this a true reflection of what transpired in the Committee of the Whole? Thank you. Dear colleagues, we also considered the Chartered Institute of Financial and Investment Analysis of Nigeria establishment, etc. between 18 at the Committee of the Whole and approved as follows: clauses 1 to 10 as recommended, 11 to 20 as recommended, 21 to 33 as recommended, schedules 1 to 3 as recommended, short title as recommended, long title as recommended. Distinguished colleagues, it is a true reflection of what transpired in the Committee of the Whole. Very well, thank you. Senate leader.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, I move that the bills be now read the third time.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I second that the bill be read the third time.
Dear colleagues, those support that this bill be read the third time say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clerk of Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to provide the legal framework for the mainstreaming of climate change responses and actions into government policy formulation, implementation, and the establishment of the National Council on Climate Change and for Related Matters 2018, third reading.
Dear colleagues, a bill for an act to provide a legal framework for the mainstreaming of climate change responses and actions into government policy formulation, implementation, and the establishment of the National Council on Climate Change and for Related Matters 2018, third reading taken and passed. Clerk of Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to establish the Chartered Institute of Financial and Investment Analysis of Nigeria to regulate and control practice of financial and investment analysis in Nigeria and for other matters connected therewith, 2018, third reading.
Dear colleagues, a bill for an act to establish the Chartered Institute of Financial and Investment Analysis of Nigeria to regulate and control practice of financial and investment analysis in Nigeria and for other matters connected therewith, 2018, third reading taken and passed. Colleagues, I want to thank all of us for making it possible for these two bills that were earlier passed in the House of Representatives to be concurred to in the Senate. I think it's part of our working together to ensure that bills that have gone through elaborate processes of legislation do not take so much time in respective chambers. I just do hope that the House of Reps will also extend the same level of support and cooperation so that we'll hasten some of these bills in the interest of our country. So once more, I want to thank you for your understanding and making sure that we pass these two bills earlier passed in the House of Representatives, today in the Senate. Thank you. Senate Leader.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, having concluded today's proceedings on the order paper, I hereby move that the Senate do adjourn till tomorrow, Wednesday, the 7th of February 2018 at 10 a.m. prompt.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise to second that the Senate do stand adjourned till Wednesday 7th at 10 a.m. tomorrow. I so second.
Before I put the question, please let me also remind those in the Conference Committee for Constitutional Amendment that the meeting will hold at 2 p.m. in my office, and the members are myself, Senator Ahmed Lawan, Enina Abaribe, Balaibin Nala, Dino Malaye, Magnus Abe, and Biodun Lujimi. Then support that the Senate do not adjourn to tomorrow, the 7th day of February 2018 at 10 a.m. prompt. Say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Senate is accordingly adjourned.